Friday, September 13th. I'm Sheila Gunn Reid, and you're watching Battleground. Hello, Rebels. It's Sheila Gunn Reid. I'm filling in for the boss today, Ezra Levant, because he's over in the UK. Now, Battleground is our weekly Friday, I guess it's noon where everybody else is, show. It's 10 a.m. for me. And it's a chat show, a talk show, really. We're on YouTube. And you can send us a comment in the chats. And they have this thing called Super Chats, where you can throw a little bit of money at us and it'll highlight your chat and I'll see it out of the corner of my eye. And if it's a question, I'll do my best to answer it. If it's a comment, I'll read it aloud and it'll stay pinned to the top of the chat. And that's the way we sort of pay the bills around here. It keeps me in all these stickers on my computer. If we do have technical difficulties today, you got to bear with me. I work remotely. I'm not in Rebel HQ. So I have a lot of things happening on the two screens in front of me. One computer is doing the heavy lifting of chroma keying me and broadcasting me. And the other one is keeping me in touch with the office. And I can see your super chats on that one. So I guess that's the business part of what we do here out of the way. Let's get to the news of the day. And the news that I think most of you are here for is that Tommy Robinson was finally was released from prison today. And we had the boss, Ezra Levant, over there to greet Tommy as he came out of prison. And Tommy had some greetings for reporters there too. We've got a clip. Ezra was there. And guys, let her roll.
Ezra Levant, I'm standing outside HMP Belmarsh, the prison outside London where Tommy Robinson has been incarcerated for these past 66 days. Behind me you can see photographers from the Daily Mirror, the only photographers who were here today. It was kept a secret, the exact time and location, the exact time and date of Tommy being released. And here he is now. Yeah, the camera's pointing this way. They've been very insistent that I not. Hey, Tommy.
Hey, thanks,
how you doing, mate?
Good to see you, man. You all right?
I'm doing great. Look at you.
I know, man. First stop hairdressers, yeah? I know. Have your fun with your memes.
Tommy, it's great to see you.
It's good to be seen.
You're in better health than you were last time. We visited you a few times. Say a few words to your supporters who have been rooting for you these past 66 days.
Yep. I'd say it's been, I've enjoyed reading the support and hearing the support. For me, the main thing for this should be an embarrassment to the British government, an embarrassment to the judiciary. In the judge's words, so let's pretend I did commit contempt of court, which I didn't. In her words, it was unintentional. So something that was unintentional that had zero effect on a trial would result in a journalist, being put in prison, spending 2.5 months of solitary confinement in Onley. And this is the crazy thing. I walked into Belmarsh prison and walked out without seeing another prisoner.
But in a way, that was good because in Onley, they would have killed you if they could.
No, they would have done, yeah. Essentially, the governor here has done... I don't have a negative word to say about Belmarsh prison or any of the staff.
Other than the insanity that you were in here to begin with.
Other than the insanity, and by putting me at the Old Bailey, they knew they'd get me in Belmarsh. Mm-hmm. So then they can get me on isolation. Whereas if they would have put it in the second biggest court in the land, which was Winchester, I'd have gone to the Cat B local in Winchester. I'd have been fine because there's no Muslims in the jail. But essentially, I know I look a mess, so have your fun with it. And it's ginger, so I look like a little cowardly convert coming out of jail. Salam alaikum. Do you know it took 16 days? This is another thing. It took, which is what I find quite funny. The imams come to see me each day.
The imams?
The imams every day.
Are they trying to get you on side?
They weren't. They were all nice, yeah. And it took 16 days. Yeah, I'm not bothered about that. It took 16 days. 16 days before a Christian come.
Really?
Every day, and there are 4 different imams within the 16 days, and then a Christian come. And when he come, I was just like,
holy
there is a Christian one.
Well, listen, there are a few other media who came here. Yeah. What's your message to the media? I have to say the mainstream media, the Daily Mirror's here, they were here early.
You read their lies?
Can you turn you around to get you with the pack? No, you can't. You can't film the prison, mate. Let's move on.
Yeah, You read their lies. You read their lies. The Daily Mirror lied, saying I was attacked. The Daily Mirror lied, saying I was attacked in this prison. You lied. Yeah, you lied to the public. You made up an entire story, or you're part of the propaganda that's pushed out. My only message to them is, you're a disgrace and embarrassment, because if this happened to a journalist in Hong Kong, if what's happened to me happened to a journalist in Russia, in China, you'd all be up in arms. But because I talk about Islam, you're all silent. You're all complicit in the attack on free speech that we're witnessing. You're all complicit on what's happened to our country. All of the media are.
Well, it's a great point. Right now, there's Venezuela.
I was found guilty by an appointed judge. By an appointed judge 2 weeks before. Works. No, not by a jury. Common law, English common law, says that if you can face over 6 months in prison, you get a jury. I was not given a jury.
So you think you'd be not guilty if it was a jury?
I know I'd have got found not guilty, and so do they. It's the only offence in the whole entire country, yeah, that you can get taken to prison for up to 2 years without a jury. Yeah. Without a jury.
Well, that's how contempt works. That's
no, that's not how English common law works. So that goes against English common law. And why was I at the Old Bailey? You tell me as a journalist, why was I at the Old Bailey? 13 murder trials and me for holding my phone up, and I was convicted of
high profile, Tommy.
Because I'm high profile, that's why I'm at the Old Bailey.
Yeah. Well, maybe it is.
What difference does that make?
Because they know you're going to have all your fans are going to be there.
What difference
and
they
know
we?
Because obviously the security procedures aren't the same as the Old Bailey as they are at other courts.
Well, I've been to 10 different courts over the years. They've never moved me to...
Your popularity has increased. Look how popular you are.
I'm glad you recognise that.
Tommy, it's really
because
weird.
Of your failures.
It's weird to have the media debating with you.
Arguing because they're not media. They are not media. They're not journalists reporting stories.
I've never seen this before, that a journalist is taking the role of the prosecutor. I mean, I like a good prickly question myself, but of course I've never seen this except for...
question people. It's our job.
No, you're not questioning, you're telling me. You didn't question. You're telling me. But at the same time, yeah.
Well, Tommy, tell you what, let's get you a haircut. Let's get you a hot meal. Let's get you reunited with your family, wife and kids.
Yeah.
Thank you, mate. We're going now.
Just before you leave.
Thanks ever so much.
So,
yeah. All right, Tommy. Well, listen. Let's get you cleaned up.
The sun, mate. The sun.
You got a lot of friends and fans. Give us one word about the mail. I know that there was about a month before you were able to get your mails.
Yeah,
we'll be in that.
So there's I think there's 14 sacks. I read
14 sacks of mail.
I read every single one of your messages, every single bit of your mail, and it was emotional for me to read the effect it has on people, and it's also fulfilling to see the amount of people that woke up, that were awakened by what the British government have done and what they're doing.
Yeah. All right, let's take care of you, my friend. Nice to see you. I'm glad you're free. Cheers.
Just be free, man.
Okay. All right, folks. I'm going to interview Tommy at length in privacy, away from some of the other journalists for a bit.
So we have some super chats. We've got one from Jersey Linda for $2. She says, "Thank you for covering Tommy's release. How could we not? I think we fancy ourselves to be freedom fighters here at The Rebel. We care about the free press. We care about free expression. And we also care about girls victimized by rape gangs. And so how could we not stand on the side of Tommy Robinson while he's imprisoned for doing journalism and defending the girls of his country?" We've got one from Hindu Historian, $5 Canadian. "Thanks for ensuring Tommy's safe treatment in prison. Namaste." You know, Tommy does look much better coming out this time than he did before. And boy, oh boy, he sure is feisty. And he seems to have his wits about him. I remember last time he came out of prison, he seemed sort of shell-shocked, and I imagine he was. And I think that's due in part to the fact that the prison system knew that we would be going back repeatedly to make sure that he was okay. And like Ezra says, when you measure something, you sort of change it every time you measure it. And I think that's what we did. We changed the circumstances for Tommy in that prison because the prison system knew that we were coming back and we would be reporting on everything we saw. And if they denied us access to Tommy, we would report on that too. And ultimately, there would be a reason for them to deny us access, and it wouldn't be good. So I'm proud to say that we were part of the campaign to keep Tommy Robinson safe while he was a political prisoner in a country that is the home of the Magna Carta. How far that country has fallen. Did you notice something, though, in that? I was making notes as I was watching that video, and it wasn't that fascinating to see another journalist argue for the imprisonment of another journalist. Part of that, I think, is just that they are against Tommy Robinson and they don't want the truth to get out. But also, I think some of it is to do with the fact, and I think we experience this a little bit here in Canada too, or a lot bit, I would say. Tommy's willing to do the work that they aren't. Tommy is eating their lunch every day. Tommy's got a huge following of people who care about him, who support him. And these other journalists, they don't have that. And they don't have the freedom that Tommy does to report on the things that he does. And I think a lot of it is jealousy. You got to get Tommy out of the way. He's kind of their competition. It's funny because Ezra said, well, I've never seen a journalist act as a prosecutor, but I think he's forgetting some of our experience here in Canada. I'm currently being prosecuted by the government for writing a book critical of the former government. And I've been asked to appear for an interrogation with a government investigator. And I've seen a whole raft of journalists arguing that I should because I've somehow broken this unconstitutional law that says that you can't write books during an election. It's really quite ridiculous, but it's just the lengths that journalists will go to. And I've seen it change in probably the last 10 years. Ezra published the cartoons of the Prophet Muhammad, and he was prosecuted and persecuted by the Human Rights Commission for doing that. And at the time, I think it was pretty well unanimous. All the journalists stood on his side. And now I think if he published those, they wouldn't. I think would be pretty near unanimous on the opposite, that they would say that what he did was in poor taste, it was Islamophobic, whatever, instead of his journalistic right to do so. Did I miss any super chats? Donna Johansson, I'm sorry if I said the wrong one. So I said them both. She gives us $2.79. Yeah, Tommy, glad he's out. Me too, and I bet his family is too. We've got one from MVP, $6. I think that's American. Thank you. I was confident Tommy would be safe with the rebel in his corner. Yeah. We're made exactly for these fights, aren't we? Primpal08 gives us $5 Canadian. Primpal, you're always very generous in the super chats. Great to see Tommy's out and still fighting strong. The fake news media is just as phony as ever. And I think that is all of them. Other news in Canada here. It's election season. Just a little over, I guess it would be 6 weeks, a little under 6 weeks actually, till Canadians take to the polls. Trudeau dropped the writ, which is how we call an election here in Canada. And he's done it in the middle of a little bit of controversy. But first, before we talk about the controversy, let's talk about the dropping of the writ. Guys, we have a clip of Trudeau dropping the writ. My notes say a clip, so let's let everybody see Trudeau mumbling through and stumbling through one of the most important days of his life.
We've done a lot together these past 4 years, but the truth is, we're just getting started. So Canadians have an important choice to make. Will we go back to the failed policies of the past, or will we continue to move forward? That's the choice. It's that clear. And it's that important.
It is now clear, more than ever before, that Justin Trudeau thinks that there is one set of laws for him and his powerful friends, and one set of laws for every other hard-working Canadians like you. So, Justin Trudeau must allow the RCMP to do its job, and he must immediately waive privilege and cabinet confidentiality.
Content aside, wasn't that a stark dichotomy of how two people communicate? Justin Trudeau breathlessly speaking like the half-wit drama teacher that he is, and then Andrew Scheer talking with conviction and moral purpose when he's talking about the scandals of Justin Trudeau. We sent a reporter, because we are a journalistic organization, to cover a Government of Canada event. We sent David Menzies down to Rideau Hall, that's the Governor General's residence, where the government calls an election to cover the election writ drop. And they kept him out, and they kept him out. Now, the government of Canada didn't necessarily do it. They did it using their proxies in the Parliamentary Press Gallery. That's the gaggle of reporters who work on Parliament Hill, and they get to decide which reporters get in or not, which is antithetical to the idea of the free press, where no one can decide who is a reporter, especially a gaggle of your competition, which is really what this is turning out to be. It's a gaggle of our competition, a cartel, really, who are protecting their exclusive access to Canada's politicians by keeping the rebel out, because we'll ask the Liberals those prickly questions that might cost them some seats and ultimately the election. You see, these reporters, they'd like some of that $600 million in bailout money Justin Trudeau has promised them. So they need Justin Trudeau to win, and they need the rebel to stay the heck out of here. David Menzies does have a clip from when he was booted from Rideau Hall. Guys, can you key that up for me?
Menzies for the Rebel.media here in Ottawa, specifically Rideau Hall, where in less than half an hour, Prime Minister Justin Trudeau will be officially announcing the kickoff to the 2019 federal election. Now, of course, I came here from Toronto to cover the announcement, and you can see behind me, it's about, I'd say more than 120 members of the media. And when I initially came in, a security guard asked me who I was. I told him. He gave me a friendly pat on the back, waved me through. So far, so good. But, well, good old Pierre with the Parliamentary Press Gallery and a man with the Public Affairs Office for Rideau Hall, they soon singled me out and told me I was media non grata, that I had to go behind the white roped off area with members of the public, because I do not have parliamentary press credentials. You know, folks, there's even people here from foreign media, but my own government and the Parliamentary Press Gallery has decided that we are unworthy. It's spiteful. Where I'll be situated is a good 40 meters back of the podium, so Trudeau will be out of audio and visual range for the most part. And it's also deja vu going back to June when I came to Ottawa to cover the Justice Committee hearing regarding the Canadian Human Rights Act. You might remember that. We were also told the minute we arrived, essentially, that our press credentials were denied. In any event, I did have a discussion with Pierre, and I'm going to throw to that now so you can see exactly what went down.
Good morning.
Oh, hey. How you doing,
Pierre.
Pierre, nice to meet you.
How are you?
Oh, yes, we met in the office.
Briefly at the office.
That's right. Hi, Pierre. Very good. Having a good day?
Very good, yeah.
Great.
So this is Charles Anido from the Hall.
Yes. Nice to meet you, Charles. How you doing? David Menzies with Rebel Media.
Okay.
Great.
So basically, as to be able to be part of that event,
yes,
you should have an accreditation from the press gallery.
That wasn't made clear yesterday when the announcement was made.
It's been updated this morning.
Okay.
And so
it was probably I flew in from Toronto for this, right?
But you shouldn't. So technically, you don't have access to the media pen as you are not accredited by the press gallery.
Oh, you mean I can't attend this if I'm not a member of the press gallery?
Exactly.
Everybody here is a member of the Parliamentary Press Gallery?
Yeah, absolutely. Everybody here is accredited by the press gallery.
What would be the issue, the problem here, if I just cover this? I'm just part of the whole scrum here. It's I mean, I'm not in anyone's way, am I? So I just...
No, you're not. But I mean, it's restricted to the members of the press gallery. So basically, you need to request an accreditation from the press gallery. Then, if your accreditation is accepted, you would. But it's a way of like keeping control. Like we can't access the public to come to a media pen. So it's a way of controlling who has access to here.
Right.
So basically,
but I've even seen foreign media being allowed.
As long as they are accredited by the press gallery.
But Pierre, here's the problem. As you well know, you remember when we first met? It was back in June, and I was coming for the Section 13, the Canadian Human Rights Act hearings, right? And again, that time we drove all the way to Ottawa, and then we went into your office to request those credentials. We were denied. So my fear is that even if I had the time to do that, I fear that your office is going to deny me these credentials anyways. Because they were denied before.
Absolutely.
And
so,
can you tell me why that was, by the way? Because I'm still unclear, you know.
Well, that's a question you can ask the press gallery executive. If you send me an email, I'd be happy to follow your question to the press gallery executive.
Okay.
But at the moment, indeed, like your accreditation has been denied. So basically, like the next step would be for you to, I guess, go further in some sort of way and ask why. But at the moment, your accreditation has been denied, so you can't have access to the media section here.
I mean, can you think of a reason why it would be denied? I mean,
well, that's a question, and that's clarification you should ask to the press gallery executive.
I think we were once told we were not recognized as media. Don't quote me on that, but I'm just wondering how it is. Who are the gatekeepers in deciding?
That's not a discussion we should have here. I mean, that's clarification you should ask to the press gallery executive.
But with all due respect here, I mean, I've flown in all the way from Toronto to cover this for our viewership, and you know, there's a mob of me. There must be about 200 people here.
All accredited by the press gallery.
Fair enough, but you know, I'm here. Well, we have freedom of the press. We have freedom of speech. I'm not going to be causing any incident. I'm just going to be covering.
I don't think that's the question. The question is that you need to request an accreditation pass from the press gallery. Your accreditation has been denied, so you can't be in the media section. That's where we stand.
Everybody here has been
absolutely
credited. And again, I'm just trying to find out what the benchmark is for yay or nay. You know.
Well, that's a question you should have to the press gallery executive. That's not something like we're going to discuss here. Like, I mean, your accreditation has been denied. I think a couple of times already, like quite a long time ago. So, I mean, that's something you should go further, like using that path instead of.
See, my personal opinion is that, and you know, I make no bones about this.
You understand where we stand at the moment? I mean,
I don't actually.
You don't have a press gallery accreditation, so you can be in the media section this morning.
How? Hello, sir. How you doing? Yeah, with Bell Media?
Yes, sir.
How do you like this? They are kicking me out because evidently I'm not accredited. And
that's where we stand, David. Yeah. So basically you can't be in the media section anymore as you are not accredited by the press gallery.
So, I mean, I thought I'm wearing Canada, not North Korea. You know, I thought...
I don't think that's the question. The question is either you are accredited by the press gallery or not, and at the moment you're not, so you can't be in the media section.
And there's some inherent bias as to why, because we went through all the hoops before, Pierre, for the Section 13 hearings, and
Did you? I mean, you requested the pass. It hasn't been.
You remember? I went to your office.
Absolutely, and the pass has been denied. And then what you want to do next is your choice. But I mean, that's not going to be discussed here, and your accreditation won't be accepted or accepted here. I mean, it's been denied, and then if you want to like address question to the executive, you are welcome to do so. But at the moment where we stand is that you can't be.
You seem like a nice guy to me, so I'm just wondering who's directing you to do this, to kick me out.
Well, I mean, I don't know. It's a matter of being accredited by the press gallery. I mean. It's pretty...
I mean, I see that individual over there who used to be with the Parliamentary Press Gallery.
All right,
And, you know, this is someone, you might have seen the video, who actually body checked a colleague of mine,
I don't think that those two matters are related. I mean, your accreditation has been denied by the press gallery, so that's where we stand. I don't think it.
And again, for no valid reason whatsoever.
Okay.
It just seems so arbitrary, And
well, you are welcome to ask further questions, but as I say, where we stand at the moment is that you can't be in the media section here because your accreditation has been denied, and everybody else here is a media accredited by the press gallery.
If this is the media section, then is there if I step like 2 paces past this red line,
Basically,
is that
the public section is by the white fence down here.
Oh, okay. So I can, if I walk, what is that, about 30 meters? You know?
Yeah, pretty much.
I'm not going to get much on a cell phone camera that far back. And do you support this, sir? I mean, are you with the Parliamentary Press Gallery too? Or?
We're working with the Parliamentary Press Gallery.
Okay.
You need to be accredited by the Press Gallery.
You're not with the Press Gallery yourself?
No, sir.
You're with...
I'm with the Rideau Hall Public Affairs team, so we're working with the Parliamentary Press Gallery.
Can I get your card then, if that's possible? Or?
I don't have one on me, but
Okay,
I can
then.
absolutely share my contact info with you.
Okay.
Of course.
All right, then. And...
Thank you, David.
All right. Well, Pierre, I'm very disappointed. I've been very polite. I've flown all the way in from Toronto at considerable cost. I have to fly back, and I don't know, to be consigned to the kids' table, if you will. I don't think that's fair. I'm just here to cover an announcement, and I'm out of camera range when you put me back there.
Thank you.
Okay. All right. Thank you. You know, folks.
You know, isn't that fascinating? David was so kind and so patient, and he was asking all the right questions. But it really does, at the end of the day, come down to the fact that for us to report on events controlled by the Liberal Parliamentary Press Gallery, we need their permission. As competitor journalists, we need permission from our competitors before we can show up and get the same media access that they do. David is right. This is very North Korean. All those journalists there are angling for bailout money. We are the strongest, loudest liberal critics, and yet we can't be there because we will eat their lunch. Which brings me to the next thing I want to talk about, and that is our plan to cover this election. But before I get there, I see I have some super chats. I better go back and get them. Observer Dude gives us £5. Says leftists that say the Muslim grooming gangs in the UK are white and the mugshots have been digitally changed to make them look Muslim. I haven't seen that. I believe that they would say that, though. And I especially believe that given for me as a North American, when I see grooming gangs reported, when the headline reads Asian grooming gang, for me as a North American, my natural instinct is to say, what? The Japanese have grooming gangs? Because for most of the world, when we see the word Asian, we think Chinese, Korean, Japanese. We don't think Pakistan. And so I think that's done on purpose to obscure the problem. So it wouldn't surprise me if leftists are making that argument to say that the images are digitally softened to obscure the ethnicity of the offenders. We've got one from Tracy Dembrowski. Good, strong Ukrainian name. $5 Canadian. Let's go back to the failed policies of the past. Vote Trudeau out. Yeah, don't threaten me with a good time. Every time the Liberals bring up Stephen Harper, I get nostalgic for having a grown-up in power, someone with an economics degree who understands that raising taxes actually means less money in the public coffer. I think a lot of people are nostalgic for a government that did things that governments should do and didn't do the things that governments shouldn't, like care about whether or not someone is female or male before they're appointed to a position of power. Is that all of them? Let's another one from Primpal08. In Canada, only fake journalists from bought and paid for media organizations are allowed to cover the most corrupt government in Canadian history. You know, I can attest to that firsthand. I'll give you a little sneak. I don't know if I'll give you a preview, but I'll let you in on a secret. Justin Trudeau was in Edmonton last night, and I don't live in Edmonton, but I'm a hop, skip, and a jump from Edmonton, an hour's-ish drive. And so I thought, let's go see what's shaking. Let's see if I can get into this event. It was his first Liberal stop on the campaign in Alberta. So I got up early, I crossed all my T's and dotted all my I's. I responded to their media email line to RSVP for my attendance. I told them, you better save a spot for Sheila because Sheila's coming. And I wanted to do everything right. I know that sometimes the element of surprise works a little better on the Liberals because they're not really great at thinking on their feet, but I wanted to prove a point. I wanted to prove that there would not be some stupid paperwork error or miscommunication, or that I didn't send the right email to the right email address. I tried to do everything right because I wanted to prove that they were keeping me out of this Liberal event, a Liberal campaign event, which is a public event, although the venue is private and technically the Liberal Party is not the government, so it's a private organization too. But they were letting other media in, lots of other media, all the other media actually. So I wanted to prove that the only reason they were keeping me out was because I was conservative. And I won't show you the clip now. You'll have to watch because I think it's currently being edited by my long-suffering editor, beloved camera person. And he'll have that all put together for later on this afternoon. But they admit it. The reason they were keeping me out was because my values don't align with the Liberal parties, which of course means all the other media that they let in, their values do align with the Liberal parties, which is of course no surprise to me and no surprise to you, but it was just fun to hear it actually uttered out loud. It was a strange admission, but I sort of appreciate the honesty. And that brings me back to what I wanted to talk about, which was honest journalism. I don't know if you've seen it yet, but we actually have laid out our plan in full transparency for how we are going to cover the 2019 campaign. It's at campaign2019.com. And I don't know about the other journalists at The Rebel, but I will tell you that you will never know who I support. You won't know whether I support Andrew Scheer or Maxime Bernier, but you're sure going to know who I don't want to be prime minister anymore. And that's how I'm going to focus my journalism, holding the Liberals to account for their disastrous record, specifically in their attacks on Alberta over the past 4 years. And we, at campaign2019.com, we are going to do the honest, on the ground, firsthand, prickly journalism that you won't see the other media who are sitting comfortably on the Liberal plane or the Liberal bus ask Justin Trudeau. For example, yesterday, while I was at that campaign event for Justin Trudeau, I saw that Justin Trudeau was on the media bus. And he was on the media bus or Liberal bus. I'm not sure which one it is, and I don't think it matters because I don't think there's a distinction. But he was on the bus surrounded by journalists, and I mean, he's embroiled in the middle of a scandal with regard to SNC-Lavalin, and this seems like a pretty good time to be asking questions, and we're not seeing any of those questions being asked. And so it is our commitment as actual journalists, skeptical journalists, accountability journalists to ask those questions. And whether or not we're asking them to Justin Trudeau or local sacrifice candidate A, B, or C in Calgary, we're going to be there to ask those questions, the tough questions nobody else wants to ask. So you can see our full plan, you can see Ezra's video, and you can donate to cover the cost of getting our journalists all across one of the world's largest, least densely populated countries to gather the news where and when it happens at campaign2019.com. And if you have donated, thank you for your generosity. We've got a big uphill fight because the media, of course, is on Justin Trudeau's side, whereas we're on your side here at The Rebel. Now, I just made reference to Justin Trudeau's problems with SNC-Lavalin. Guys, I think we have a clip about that.
Prime Minister, what is your government trying to hide by refusing to waive cabinet confidentiality so the RCMP can properly investigate the role your office plays in the SNC Lavalin case?
We gave out the largest and most expansive waiver of cabinet confidence in Canada's history.
So are you going to ask the Privy Council clerk to waive cabinet confidentiality?
We respect the decisions made by our professional public servants. We respect the decision made by the clerk.
So Justin Trudeau said that he has waived cabinet privilege, but Christy Blatchford has an incredible article in the National Post. Justin Trudeau says his waiver of cabinet confidentiality is unprecedented, but that's not actually true. Christy Blatchford laid out the fact that the waiver only allowed Jody Wilson-Raybould and other witnesses to disclose conversations up to and including January 14th. So that's when Jody Wilson-Raybould was fired and moved out of her portfolio. And Jody Wilson-Raybould herself says there's more to the story than just that brief snippet in time where Justin Trudeau is saying, "Oh, I've waived cabinet privilege." Trudeau refuses to give even his own. He refuses to give even for his own ethics commissioner and even stunningly the National Police a waiver. It's funny though, because the most broad waiver, Justin Trudeau's bragging that his waiver is broad, but that's not the case. The most broad waiver was granted by another Liberal amidst another scandal, and that was back during the ad scam scandal when Paul Martin and Jean Chrétien issued Justice Gomery. They issued a broad waiver so that Justice Gomery could investigate just how corrupt the Liberals were back then. Every time a Liberal gets into power, we need an inquiry. It's a bit of a habit, I think, for these Liberals that they just don't handle power well, or maybe they handle it a little too well, don't they? That they just can't keep their hands out of the cookie jar, and they just can't stop themselves from helping their friends. There are other witnesses that want to come forward. I think it's 9 witnesses that want to come forward, but Justin Trudeau refuses to waive cabinet privilege for them so that they can come forward and testify. I asked some Liberals last night about this, Liberals who are waiting in line, and one older gentleman told me that it was so bizarre to even hear somebody say it out loud, but he said that elections are not the time to be discussing these issues about whether or not your prime minister is a criminal. I mean, I guess that's the kind of thing you have to tell yourself to make peace with your conscience before you cast a Liberal vote. But I have some super chats, and I'm sure the guys in the office will tell me if I've missed any, but I think I found them. We've got one from Prairie Farm Girl for $10 Canadian. And she says, "Good morning from Manitoba. Keep up the great work, Sheila." Thank you very much. I will. We've got a big job ahead of us. I've got a mountain of access to information documents to read. It feels sometimes like I'm the only journalist doing this work, I guess, outside of the good folks at Blacklock's. I'm trying to tell Canadians what the Liberals are doing behind closed doors when they think nobody's watching, but I'm always watching. Okay, we've got one from Craig McDonald. Hi, Craig. How are the kids? He gives us $20.99 Canadian. He says, "Hi, Sheila. In my humble opinion, this election boils down to a simple choice for Canadians. The choice is Trudeau or Alberta." And I think that choice is also, on the flip side, it's sort of like that for Albertans too. We've seen a rise in separatist sentiment in Alberta, the likes of which I don't think we've ever seen. There are a lot of old timers, and you don't even have to be that much of an old timer to have experienced the separatist sentiment that grew in the wake of Trudeau's dad. That all sort of ended. When you think about it, the rise of separatism ended when we got in, when the West got in, when Prime Minister Stephen Harper was elected. You saw the extinguishment of the separatist sentiment in Quebec, and it ended in Alberta too. And I think a lot of that had to do with his hands-off approach to what happens in the provinces. And we're seeing the complete and total opposite of that happening under Justin Trudeau. I think the choice for Albertans right now is that they will vote Conservative, because a lot of them, this is their last ditch shot at wanting to remain within Canada. And I hate to say it, but a lot of Albertans, if we lose this election, if the Conservatives don't at least win a minority, you're going to see a rise in separatist sentiment, the likes of which we have really never seen. And it's going to get very organized. And Jason Kenney, our Conservative Premier, he's not going to be able to contain it. He says he's a staunch federalist, and I believe him when he says that, but I don't think he's going to be able to keep a lid on what is boiling just under the surface in Alberta. And if the Liberals are reelected, and if Alberta has to live with a fate decided for them by the rest of the country before Albertans even finish casting their votes, it's going to get explosive. And there's going to be a real movement for Alberta to leave the country. And I guess it will just, the question remaining will be who will lead the parade, because the parade is already marching. And thank you for that super chat, Craig. And I think that is it. What else is on our list to talk about here, guys? Oh, no, I read that one, Justin. Oh, I didn't read Proud Boys. Sorry. And the Proud Boys are my friends, so no, I don't have it in my themes yet. So maybe you might want to send that to me again, Justin, if you wouldn't mind. And let's move on to the next. Oh, great. Proud Boys Calgary, $2.79. Can't wait for the Calgary appearances of Justin Trudeau, or of me trying to go to Justin Trudeau events, because I think those are all going to happen. I think Justin Trudeau is going to try to come to Calgary. He's going to try his best to help Kent Heer, serial groper Kent Heer, birds of a feather, right? So I think he's going to do his best to try to save Kent Heer. Darshan Kang, he was removed from the Liberal caucus. He was the other Liberal MP in Calgary. He was removed from the caucus because he did a level of sexual harassment that was unacceptable even for the Liberals, and I think that's saying something. So there's another candidate for the Liberal Party who's running in Darshan Kang's riding to replace him. And I think it's going to get a little frisky when Justin Trudeau comes to Calgary. I know Kent Heer is increasingly unpopular, specifically because he has done literally nothing to defend Calgary in the face of retail, retail real estate. About 1/3 of Calgary's office towers are completely vacant. And that has a lot to do with the evacuation of oil field capital from the city to safer jurisdictions like Iraq, where ISIS is. So Kent Heer has voted like a good and loyal Liberal, refusing to vote in favor of the Energy East pipeline when the Conservatives brought forward a motion to show investors that the government was for Energy East. He refused to, just like every other Liberal. And so here's hoping he's voted out. Here's hoping Trudeau shows up to help him, because that will do the exact opposite. Next on the list, guys in the office, we have a clip of Andrew Scheer talking about what, for some reason, the mainstream media thinks everybody in the entire country cares about. More than jobs, more than taxes, more than keeping a roof over your head. The mainstream media is obsessed about Andrew Scheer's position on abortion. And look, I'm a pro-life woman. I'm a practicing Catholic. I've lived the worst case scenario that the pro-choice side of the argument wants to trot out. My son is 21. I'm 40. Do the math. I had my son at 19. I grew up desperately poor. I made bad choices when I was a younger person, but I would never have not chosen him. And so I come by my pro-life bona fides pretty honestly, but the mainstream media seems obsessed with making Andrew Scheer profess to be either pro-choice or pro-life instead of just someone who says, this is a matter of conscience and I'm not going to have my MPs jeopardize their mortal soul or what they think is their mortal soul to vote along with the party. Guys?
Nothing on this issue has changed for our party. We have always made it very clear that we will not support reopening the issue. The Conservative government will not reopen this issue. And as Prime Minister, I will vote against any measure that does attempt to do that. We are going to be focused on things that unite Canadians, unite our own team. It's not a surprise that the Liberals are once again trying to push this thing out. The only people who are continually trying to reopen this debate or fearmonger on this issue are Liberals. And I'm going to make a prediction. They're going to continue to do this for 39 days because they are desperate to change the channel on their scandals and corruption. And Ms. Bennett today has put forward a message that is completely false. She is making things up in her attack, and it's not a surprise because her leader has been lying about issues for some time now.
We're the only party that allows for free votes, and so I'm grateful that our leader will allow free votes on issues of moral conscience.
Would you introduce legislation?
I'm planning to focus on issues that I'm hearing about at the door. I've been knocking on doors for a year and a half in this community. We've been building great momentum, and the issues that I'm hearing about are affordability, security, and Justin Trudeau's repeated scandals and corruption.
But do you still care about this issue?
I've never hidden behind the fact that I am pro-life. Justin Trudeau said in 2011 he also is pro-life, but our party is focused on issues that unite Canadians.
On some level, I'm annoyed with the media because the media wants pro-life candidates, whether they're religiously pro-life or secularly pro-life. And, you know, I know a few doctors who are adamantly pro-life, and they're not doing it out of religious reasons. They're secular, but they're pro-life. And it's a great and grave matter of conscience for people who are pro-life. But to think that you can't hold public office because you believe that life begins at conception, or probably even more likely that you just believe that, hey, maybe Canada should have some sort of restriction. I mean, it's appalling. And the mainstream media seems to be all ideologically aligned, that there is absolutely no dissenting view. And that if you are pro-life, that you're somehow anti-woman, when the pro-life movement is largely led by women. If you go to the March for Life, it is 75% women. But they don't go to the March for Life because I go there and I don't see any other media at all. And I'm able to go there for my job, but I'm also there because I am pro-life and does not demand ideological conformity, which I think is wonderful. I've got a couple super chats that the guys in the office kindly pointed out for me. I've got one from Observer Dude for £5. £5. Thank you. That's like 8 Canadian pesos. Thank you. He says, would you be surprised if Justin Trudeau announced he is now a woman? You know what? According to Canada, in Justin Trudeau's time, we are just a wonderful unicorn ranch where you can be whatever you want to be. And so if you identify as female to, I don't know, get your genitals waxed, that's fine. And if you want to babysit somebody else's kids, that's your human right. It's a very strange time to be alive here in Canada, and we're in a place I never, ever, ever would have expected. I got another super chat from my friend Justin from Proud Boys Calgary for $6.99. I was referring to the Rebel Tour in Cowtown. I was surprised that any Liberal has the gall to show up in Calgary at all. Well, I don't know we don't quite have the details about us coming to Calgary quite yet, but I can tell you that we are going to be out on the streets helping distribute the signs for Ezra Levant's beautiful new book, The Libranos, which I think is at maybe #1 in political books. I didn't check this morning, but I know he was ahead of the 2 other mainstream media journalists who've written less critical books of Justin Trudeau. I guess people do really want to know the truth and not look at Justin Trudeau through the veneer of the mainstream media. So we will be out and about, whether it's me or Kian or another helper. We will be out in cities and towns all across Alberta to make sure that you get those Libranos lawn signs. Oh boy, they're gorgeous. And I'm excited because one of my favorite parts of the Alberta election campaign, not only outside of the fact that I knew Rachel Notley would be leveled in the election campaign, that brought me a lot of joy. But I liked that I was gone just about every night to Alberta small towns and big cities, but small towns. I'm kind of a small town, not kind of a small town girl. I am a small town girl. I live literally in the middle of nowhere. But I liked going to oil patch towns and places like Bonnyville and Lloydminster and Vegreville and Smoky Lake, and just handing out signs, talking to people who have sort of been the forgotten man in Alberta for the last 4 years. And it sort of turned into a tailgate party. People were showing up bringing donuts for my daughter because they heard that I dragged her along with me every night, bringing coffee, bringing me beef jerky. So I'm really looking forward to doing that again. That's my favorite part of my job, is to talk to and tell the stories of the people that the mainstream media like to look down their smug noses at. Not sure, maybe I forgot a super chat. The guys will tell me. Now, staying on the topic of abortion, we've got one crazy one from Green Party Elizabeth May. Green Party leader Elizabeth May. The woman is, I'm going to say it, I think she's certifiable. And I'm not even talking about her sycophantic love for Omar Khadr, convicted terrorist, murderer, maimer, IED builder Omar Khadr. She's crazy. She's got crazy ideas about Israel. Her candidates have crazy ideas about Israel. She has this superhero psychosis where she thinks it's her job, and she's the only one who can save the planet from our untimely demise, from being boiled in a carbon catastrophe. But she said another crazy thing, and it really stuck out for me on the topic of being pro-life, or just on the topic of abortion. And I'll make my points after, but you got to see this video because it's crazy. Just pay attention to the age she mentions that she first became pro-choice.
What is your personal view on abortion?
A woman has a right to a safe legal abortion. I've never wavered in that position since I was like 8 years old and realized what was going on when I heard my mother arguing with people about the issue. A woman has a right to a safe legal abortion.
What would you do as leader of your party if a backbench Green MP came forward and wanted to introduce a private member's bill that reopened the debate?
It's a difficult question because in Green Party policy, as leader, my job description is chief spokesperson. So I could talk to them, I could try to dissuade them, I could say it would be unfortunate. We work to consensus as Greens, so a measure of a private member's bill, we would all discuss it as a caucus. We try to talk people out of something. But I don't have the power of leader of the Green Party to whip votes, nor do I have the power to silence an MP. And frankly, I think that's a good thing, because democracy will be healthier when constituents know that their MP works for them and not for the party leader.
Okay, so Elizabeth May said that she was 8 years old when she first decided that she was pro-choice. 8 years old. Now, I did a little research. I think Elizabeth May was 8 years old in 1962, which is even before the sexual revolution, which is before an 8-year-old would be influenced by the sexual revolution advocacy that she would be seeing on TV. Later on in that clip, actually, Elizabeth May goes on to say that her personal hero is Jesus Christ. So after she goes on to say she's been pro-choice since she was 8 years old, anybody who's ever met a child would would think that that's crazy. But she goes on to say that her personal hero is Jesus Christ and that she's unapologetic for it. I know Elizabeth May is studying to be an Anglican minister. I'm not so sure if she's still doing that or how far she got on that, but I do know a little Bible myself, and Matthew 19:14 says, "Let the little children come unto me, and do not hinder them, for the kingdom of heaven belongs to such as these." It didn't say harm the little children. It said, "Let the little children come unto me." So, I mean, for her to say that she's, pro-choice at 8 years old, and then to say that, her personal hero is Jesus Christ in the same clip, it's cringe-inducing, really. But let's talk about 8 years old. Doesn't this feel like those tweets you see from super woke progressives when they say something about their 5-year-old or their 7-year-old seeing Donald Trump on TV or seeing something about immigration on TV, and then the super woke progressive tweets that their child has said something like a Hillary Clinton talking point about either immigration or women's rights or whatever, as long as it harms Donald Trump. It's so fake. It absolutely didn't happen. And most normal, not completely morbid 8-year-olds are so pro-baby, especially young girls. They are so absolutely pro-baby that there's an entire toy industry built around the fact that little girls love babies. They don't say, yeah, it should be that mommy's right to suck that baby out of her body and break it into little pieces. It's atrocious. Whether you are pro-life or pro-choice, you got to realize Elizabeth May is total BS artist here. Didn't happen. Unbelievable. No possible way. Oh, we've got some super chats. Johnny Danger. Cat eyes and flannels. Sheila, you rock. Hashtag marry me. Take a number. Things are going pretty good with my long-suffering husband and father of my children. So, I mean, I suppose I'm lucky that I appeal to some people. I'm sort of a niche product. So I'm just happy for the fans that I have. I think we're headed towards the end, but we could talk about Gagan Sikand. I hope that's how we say his name. He's the guy who started the Andrew Scheer is so poor hashtag craze. He said Scheer was so poor that he had to buy his conservative values secondhand from Stephen Harper. This actually started to trend on social media. Started with him, but then it started to trend. And then it was a series of liberal partisans and liberal voters and just generally gross people making fun of the fact that Andrew Scheer was middle class. Now, I will make a caveat. He was middle class. He wasn't poor. But being middle class and even upper middle class, there you generally have everything you need and some of the things you want, but you are not affluent like Justin Trudeau. And I thought that was just like a perfect encapsulation of who exactly the Liberals are. They talk a big game about the Liberal class and those working hard to join it or whatever the heck the phrase is. But they're the first ones to make fun of what it's actually like to be middle class. They can make fun of Andrew Scheer for being poor or not being poor, but 4 more years of these Liberals and the rest of us are going to be so poor that we can scarcely afford a bag of Bill Morneau's wife's finest curly fries. Our finance minister is married into one of the richest families in Canada. He's a guy that forgot his French villa. Justin Trudeau, our prime minister, Mr. Working Hard for the Middle Class, he inherited a house from his dad that is now a historical site, $1 million car, a trust fund, and when you think about it, he also inherited the office of prime minister. I think it is absolutely appalling, but again, I appreciate the honesty from these Liberals that they are so, when you push them on the issue, you don't have to scratch them very hard. They really show their true colors and how they think of Middle Canada. I think it's 10:59. I did it, you guys. I have 2 super chats, and I was just gonna congratulate myself for getting through a whole hour of talking without getting sick of myself. Okay, so from Primpal08, $5 Canadian. Elizabeth May, free stuff for everyone. Make Canada carbon free by 2050. Pay for it with the magic money tree. Power the country with unicorn energy. Do those unicorn trees suck up carbon dioxide? If so, we should be planting more of them. Okay, Northern Tiger, $5. Would it be your plans to create a French Rebel channel, especially for non-speaking English? I know we did some French language videos a little while back. I think they were pretty well received, and I know there are lots of conservative rebel types in Quebec, and it would be really great to communicate our issues in their native tongue. It's just a matter of, I suppose, finding reliable talent to do those sorts of things, and that's not my job. But I know Ezra watches all these shows, so maybe he'll take that to heart. It's 11. I did it. We did it. We made it. Justin and guys in the office, we did it. Congratulations to all of us. Congratulations to you for suffering through this show. I think Ezra's back next week in the big chair, and I'll get back to my regular work. And thank you everybody so much for tuning in, and thank you for your super chats. They go a long way to pay the bills around here. Bye.